Welcome back, teachers, to another edition of the Teachers on Fire Roundtable. I'm hearing a little bit of feedback, so we'll try to kill that somewhere. If someone's got a tab that is playing some audio, we'll try to mute that. But here we go. We are having a conversation this morning about media creation. I'm joined by three very qualified guests. Wow, I am humbled to be in their presence this morning. Looking forward to learning a lot. My name is Tim Cavey. I'm an 8th grade teacher and assistant principal in Vancouver, Canada. I have a passion for content creation. I've been a podcaster for 2 years and starting to get into YouTube in a bigger way. So very excited about this space. Thank you all for joining me. I'm going to ask you to start out by introducing yourselves. Tell us a little bit about your context and your work, of course, in media creation, starting with you, Paula.
With me? All right. So first of all, thank you for having me today. My name is Paula Neidlinger, and I am located in northern Indiana, Plymouth, Indiana. I have been at the middle school level for almost 30 years and was English. I was also a principal at the elementary level and most recently then in media for about the last 8 to 10 years. So in May, I retired from that position. So now I'm at home getting to do all of this for fun. So I have a radio station here in my office, and which our book, we now have launched our own radio station. So we're going to start broadcasting our shows and, doing our website work, promoting our book, and hopefully doing more writing and, continue with media creation because that's my passion.
Paula, you are living the dream. That is great to hear. Bruce, over to you.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me, Tim. I'm Bruce Reicher from northern New Jersey, right outside of New York City. I'm actually a co-author with Paula and also Randall on our book, Scripted and Educator Guide to Media in the Classroom. I've been a teacher for 26 years, and I've been a media teacher, coding teacher, Google Apps teacher for the past 14 years in a middle school in New Jersey. And I'm excited to share tons of great ideas with everybody today.
Great to have you, Bruce. For some reason, I've got so many great educator friends in New Jersey. So shout out to New Jersey educators. Erika, over to you.
Well, hello. Thanks so much for having me here, Tim. This is awesome. And with among these amazing people. My name is Erika Sandstrom. Many people know me as Green Screen Gal, and I've been teaching for 30 years in grades 3 through 8, most subjects, and then I got into technology. So now I am a digital learning coach for middle school 6 through 8, and then I'm also a digital media teacher full-time. I also teach online courses for green screen and video production, and I'm also a mindfulness coach for my district and beyond. So I teach a lot of PD for that. And I recently just joined up with a friend of mine, Tony Gugliotta. He is a former Channel 5 news anchor, and we're starting something called Educators. So we're both video nuts, and I'm sure all of you will be involved in that new venture as well. So I'm also the founder of the Mindful Superhero Club. So that's what all of my videos and things you see, all my shenanigans on Instagram and Twitter. So thanks again for having me.
Very fun. Well, thank you for joining us, Erika. I've featured Erika and Bruce both on my podcast. Paula will have to make that happen as well at some point here. But Erika, that's the first I've heard of #Educator. Love that. I'll have to keep that one going. I'm still hearing some feedback. I don't know how that is happening. So maybe we'll try to all mute until you're speaking. We'll see if that solves it. Thank you for joining us, Justine Marie Wright. Amazing roundtable today. Looking forward to this discussion. Great to have you with us. And Paul says, morning all. Thanks for hosting. Great to have you, Paul. And my brother, Andrew Cavey. Always good to see you, Andrew. He says, wow, over 100 years of experience represented here. He's right. We've got a few veterans on hand. And we'll say we're experienced, we're knowledgeable. Yes. Well, nothing. We don't need to talk about age here. Why bring that up?
We're seasoned educators.
Yeah, we are seasoned educators. That's right. All right, so we're going to get this started. And I tweeted out a video to all of you, by the way, that I'm looking forward to some feedback at some point in this conversation in terms of what you would recommend for my space. So I'm sort of thinking of this call as my personal consultation. So thank you all for joining me and giving me your free advice. But first of all, I want to start with this question. How do you use media creation to inspire your learners? What sorts of projects energize you? And I know for Paula and Bruce, we could go on for hours about this because you literally wrote the book on it, but we already heard a few glimpses of this question. Yeah, there we go, scripted. Keep that on hand. I'm sure that'll come up again. Let's snake our way back. So Erika, we'll start with you. Tell us, and I know you've got a lot to share here as well, but tell us a little bit about how you use media creation to inspire your learners.
Oh my goodness. In so many ways. I mean, I do teach digital media, so it's my thing. But for me, I just find that there isn't a subject, including social emotional learning or anything out there, that can't be expressed through media and all types of media. I use everything from graphic design and video production to, then we get into animation and so on. But the things that fuel me the most, obviously, are the social emotional learning and the mindfulness videos, because I feel like for kids to learn compassion and empathy and all these things, you have to give them an opportunity to practice it. And watching them create these scripts for, things like negative self-talk or how we can use breathing techniques. I don't know if you've seen my glitter jar one, where the kids put themselves inside the glitter jar to explain how to use one. Those are so powerful for me. So student voice, lately we're doing some on social justice and equity, and just watching these kids create just to help us right now in the state we're in this world. So those are the ones.
Right. And I remember that, Erika, from our podcast conversation, the amazing ways that you connect those two domains, because we wouldn't think of them necessarily as connected, but you do some really cool work in that space. Bruce, over to you. Same question. How do you like to use media creation to inspire your learning?
I mean, my favorite way to use it is definitely 14 years ago, we started a student TV show to tell the stories of our school and give our students voice. And for 12 years, we had a live TV show every single morning where we were able to do news, announcements, sports, a feature every single day. And since March 13th of last year, we've kind of pivoted like everybody else has with remote learning and COVID. And we've gone to a weekly show instead of a daily show. And we usually have 3 or 4 video packages in it, all different types of videos about what the students are doing, how they're dealing with COVID, and things that they could do, during remote learning. So my passion is really in the storytelling for our TV show. And to kind of piggyback on what Erika was saying too, for social emotional learning and wellness, there is no better thing than media creation to make kids really feel good about themselves, creating something from scratch and telling their story and other stories about the school and the community. So I would have to say my live TV show and now my weekly TV show until we get back into school, hopefully soon.
That's right. Well, and I can't imagine, Bruce, the burden of a daily TV show happening in a school. I mean, that is some intense pressure and sort of that never-ending cycle of work. So I'm glad to hear. I think that's probably an easier stepping stone for most educators looking to get into a show, is to think of it as weekly or even bi-weekly, at least at the beginning. Paula, tell us about how you mentioned radio. Tell us more about how you used media creation to inspire your learners.
Yes, we also have a television station. So that's how Bruce and I met, was through our TV. I've had a radio station for about 5 years at the school. So I've had that plus the yearbook. So we've kind of combined all 3 in the same class. I think what I like most about media is the creativity side of it. I feel like, I don't know, as an past English teacher, sometimes I feel like the creativity was kind of yanked a little bit out of our classroom, and we got so stringent on what had to be taught. That media to me allows kids to think outside the box and, let them go as far as they need to go. There's no reins pulling them back. And radio gives kids a chance to speak their minds, put their ideas out there. all of this gives kids a global audience, which, as educators, we're always thinking, how can I give my students a global audience rather than just at the confines right in our school, in our classroom? And media creation allows us to do that, depending on whatever avenue we take. So
I love that point, Paula, about the global audience. And I think I actually have a lot of questions there, because almost everything I see in EduTwitter is about keeping it inside the school, even if it is digital, even if it is created. We have so many privacy boundaries now that restrict us. Were you able to, let's put it that way, were you able to publish your students' content globally?
Yes, we at the beginning of the year, we have a consent form that every student signs and the parent signs, so that they know it's going to be on YouTube, whatever. So we take our television show, and I have a website, so we upload it to the website, which is then through YouTube as well. So we have a YouTube channel and that. The radio is obviously global. So it is through Backbone Radio. So it's a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week internet radio station. And so that's kind of how we got around. So I think the powerful part is when students are on the radio, you can show them the data. Backbone provides you the data and goes, here's who is watching. This is the time they're watching. This is where they're from. And all of a sudden you can see their eyes go, oh my gosh, you mean somebody was like really listening? It's like, yes, they're listening, So, and that's powerful to know that somebody is actually watching or listening to what you've created.
Yeah. Yeah, you make me think of my friends Che and Pav at the Staff Room podcast. I think probably some of you have come across them on Twitter, and they do a lot of radio. And to me, my only thought on that is I like to create content that is permanent. So would those radio shows be archived, Paula?
Yes.
Okay.
I can record or go live, but they're automatically recorded. So I actually do program them to play again and again, so that parents at night, you can go like, oh, at 4:00, I'm going to be on the radio again, so they can listen to the show. So yes.
Yeah. And there they are. So somebody from the Staff Room podcast is joining us. So welcome. We've got a handful of viewers. If you'd like to give us a holler and let us know where you are coming from, I'd love to throw your comment up on the screen and welcome you. Let's get into question number 3. What sorts of wins or opportunities for learning do you see during the time of COVID? With so many schools that have gone hybrid or remote learning, that's discouraging to a lot of us. We live to see our students and interact with them in person. But how can COVID and how can these circumstances actually be a win? Paula, back to you. What do you think about that?
Well, I think the win is teaching students like multitasking and time management skills, because now that they're at home, there is nobody there, keeping them like, you need to walk to this room now. They have to do this all themselves. And I think especially, me teaching middle school, what a perfect time to teach being able to multitask and keeping yourself on a schedule. And, our TV shows, we know have to be X amount of, a time span. So to me, that's one of the biggest, I think, life experiences that they're learning that they're going to use forever.
Yeah. Well, in a way, this whole space of media creation is very connecting for students who maybe feel isolated. And then the other thing, and I'm actually in face-to-face right now, but I remember from the spring that some of my students, my 8th graders, said, Mr. KV, I actually feel way more productive right now working from home because I don't have all these distractions, which is really true. So there's something to be gained. Now, they may have different kinds of distractions, but their schedule is their own, as you said. Bruce, over to you. How do you see, let's put a silver lining on COVID. What are some of the unique wins and opportunities of this season?
Sure. I mean, I'll give you 2 wins. First, for the kids, I think the biggest win is you can use any tool that you would like. We use WeVideo for video editing, but if kids are using their phones, I'm like, use Apple Clips, use whatever you can. You can import it when you're done into WeVideo. And I think it opens up a lot of possibilities for them. And just to give you an example that I saw online, a video teacher had his students make a commercial for what? Go in your cabinet and go find anything. and go make a slick 30-second commercial with music, different camera angles, all of those things together. And there is a way to leverage it that the students are home. And I think it really has brought in, for me, them using their phones and those very good cameras. They all have Chromebooks. We're lucky enough at a 1-to-1, but most kids shoot, using their phones. And the second win that I would say is for all of us. I mean, for educators, and you've heard me say this before, Tim, this is the best time ever, ever, for PD, because everybody's online. Everyone's going to be home soon enough. We were last March to June. Now, as more and more countries are kind of shutting down for a little while, you can get anybody that you would like. You can find any expert, and every single educator wants to help another educator. And I think now professional development online is the richest that I've ever seen it. And I would encourage everybody, when you're online, if you find someone that's in your curriculum area that you can get an idea from, don't be afraid to DM them or get a hold of them on Facebook with an instant message, because they will write you back and they will help you. And I think, educators have really shown their true colors here to recover quickly. We just went remote learning over the weekend. We were in school Friday, and then Monday we went back to remote learning, and the teachers did it without missing a step this year. Last year was a little bit more of a work in progress, but all educators want to help each other. And I would encourage everybody, get on Twitter, get on Facebook, whatever social media you use, and take advantage of all the educators that are out there. And one final thing is simple, Tim. This year I had 2 new classes, one on app design and one on game design. I posted the question over the summer. I think for Twitter and Facebook, I got 15, 20 different answers with different resources. And almost every educator was like, just DM me. I'll meet with you. I'll do a Zoom with you, Google Meet, whatever it may be, and be able to help you out.
That is amazing advice, Bruce. I agree, and I think all of us probably on this panel are on the same page with that. On that note, if you're watching, or maybe you're catching us live or on the replay, check out the show notes. I've already embedded our Twitter URLs there, so you can reach out and connect with us on Twitter. And Bruce is absolutely right. There's something magic about EduTwitter. Everyone is available to help. Mrs. Artel says, some of my quietest students come alive when given different media opportunities, voice, and choice. And Justine says, if you aren't accessing the PD now, you are definitely missing out. Online has made it affordable for many. Great points there. Erika, over to you. I'm trying to remember the question right now. What are the wins? And I'm still hearing a little bit. You don't have YouTube open and another tab playing the audio, do you?
No, okay. So I don't.
I still can't figure out that feedback. But at any rate, go for it, Erika. What are some wins and opportunities for learning new speech during the time of COVID?
Oh my gosh, there's so many wins, and I feel like video production right now is needed more than ever, especially with these kiddos at home. Lots and lots of wins, because the kids, believe it or not, you can get them off the computer a lot. Teaching them camera angles, have them go outside and or even angles and shots. You can have them work together now, and WeVideo just has the new option for kids to be able to edit videos together at the same time, so they can do group videos. There's so many roles behind the scenes, and I love what someone said about the shy kids. They do come out. They come out with this creativity they didn't even know they had. But for example, we're also doing things like the pass it along videos. I know there was a lot of funny ones with toilet paper during COVID, but we have one with a yellow highlighter where we're animating a smiley face. I'm sure you've seen that a lot of my stuff, and the kids are creatively passing this along, whether it drops out of the sky, some are pulling it out of the refrigerator, some are baking and it drops in the bowl, some are sleeping and it lands on next to them. And it's a unity. Oh, I can hear that feedback too. That's so strange. And maybe it's my new camera, my new microphone. But anyway, so those past long videos, we're also working on something similar to John Krasinski's Some Good News. So kids can take parts in so many ways. I'm sorry about that feedback. I'm not really sure what that is. I'll see if I can
maybe just turn all your volumes down as low as you can, and that might help solve it.
Okay, and I'm going to check my settings. But I have been really successful with a lesson plan that actually I put in that Wakelet. We can put it in the show notes later, where kids take a positive quote or a famous speech or something, and they break it up into a story. And the kids absolutely love this lesson, and they use Adobe Spark because it's free and they all have access to it. And it's just been a real big win. So I'm going to share that lesson with everybody so they can get started and not feel super intimidated by video production, because that's a very good starting place to go, is Adobe Spark.
Adobe Spark. Well, we've got Brian Carpenter, who at least was watching, and he is, let me tell you, he's the Adobe Spark king. He's a huge fan of it. And I'm hearing about tips and tricks. I'm still on Canva, and I've got a paid Canva account, so I've got to keep using it. But at some point, I told Brian I've got to make the jump over to Adobe Spark. Question number 4, and this connects with my context a little bit. Why should school leaders be thinking about investing more in media creation resources? And we want to be clear that, it doesn't have to break the bank to get started. And I love how you make that clear in your book, Scripted, Bruce and Paula. But, why should school leaders put this emphasis on media creation? Erika, we'll go back to you. Why is it important in every school community?
Why we should do media creation? Well, gosh, this is another one that could go on forever, in my opinion. And probably everybody else here. But I feel like, if anything, kids are playing again, and the joy it's bringing. I mean, just yesterday we had a dance party, and it was neat because with green screen, you can, with social distancing, you can film them each separately and then put it together, and it looks like we're all dancing in the same place. But kids are playing again, and the joy that it brings, but also their problem solving skills. These kids, watching them use higher level thinking skills just to work things out, even how to climb out of something in our class, is really powerful, and just be able to express their learning in their student voice. But I think the best thing too is when you teach creative video production, it's not always about standing on a camera and talking. People hear video and they freak out. They're like, oh, I don't even like to talk on camera. So I use Brad Montag a lot for an inspiration. His kid president videos are the best video production, because if you watch them, he's not just speaking on camera. He's making faces with something behind him. He's pointing to speech bubbles. He's using voiceovers a lot with visuals on the screen. So teaching kids that there's so many ways to express themselves where they don't even have to be on camera is super powerful, even with just words and music. So that to me is reason enough to get these things. And we're going to share too, I don't know if now is the time to share that, how to do this on a budget. And you can have a studio for $10 if you use some of these suggestions.
You are welcome to share any information that you think is relevant, Erika. You mentioned kid president. I just saw a picture of him the other day. He's no longer really a kid.
Nope.
He's big kid president now. But I love those videos from Soul Pancake. Absolutely. Bruce, over to you. Why should school leaders be thinking about investing more in media creation resources? We know that to do it well, if you and I talked about our dream studio, there is some money involved. So why should school leaders cough it up?
I mean, I think 2 big reasons. The first reason is, and Erika mentioned it, the highest level of learning you could do in any model that you look at is to create something. And, to do project-based learning, to go in and create something from scratch, plan it out, write it, shoot it, edit it, publish it, and then go back again and keep re-editing it until you get it as good as you can to publish it out. Without a doubt, all of those skills that the students are learning are higher thinking skills. And the second reason I was going to say is they are future skills. If you look at any future skills, there's these top 10 lists of them that go 5 years at a time. And in 2015, creativity was about 9 or 10 out of the top 10. It has crept all the way up till number 3. Right behind problem solving and collaboration. And all of the Google applied skills, their free curriculum is all based on all of those future skills. So I think my 2 reasons are, number 1, it definitely is the highest level of learning students could do, creating something from scratch from whatever content they're learning. And then for future skills, it probably is more purposeful to teach them the creativity, the problem solving, the collaboration. And some people have called it soft skills, but I don't think it's so soft. I think these are skills that our students need now and into the future, and probably might be more important than if they're state standards or whatever the standards are, in Canada. It probably is more important to look at those future skills when you're planning. And in terms of the cost, and our book does go into it, just use what you have. I think the technology has come so far that you don't need to look to invest a lot of money. That would be the last thing I would do. The first thing I would do is look at my curriculum and find places where the curriculum could drive the media.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. There was a lot of good stuff there. You talked about the soft skills. Here in Canada, we call them the core competencies. So basically the 4 C's, or I like to add that 5th C of curiosity, right? Communication, collaboration, critical thinking, creative thinking. And so that's all in there. But Bruce, I remember from our podcast conversation that just thinking it sort of just hit me that media creation is really rich PBL. There are standards, curricular standards coming in from English, certainly from, we call it ADST or technology. And there's so many other areas. You can bring in sports, you can bring in some math, you can bring in geography and social studies. There's a whole lot going on. So I love everything you're saying. Paula, I hope we didn't steal all of your thunder, but I need to be quiet here. I'm getting excited. Why should school leaders be thinking about investing more in media creation?
Yeah, I don't know what else I can add. For me, I think media creation is more. I think when we say media creation, it's not just making a video.
Right.
It's not media creation. And the media creation, as all of you alluded to, it fits into all the curricular areas. So that if I want to take my radio station down to the band room, and while they're practicing, they actually get on the radio and produce something that they want to do. As far as the school, I look at the whole epidemic and how people that maybe are not, the technology skills maybe aren't where they need to be, have been forced to do things they've never done before. And so I feel like we need to also prepare our children right now for a world that we're not really sure what direction it's going to go in, and so that they have all the tools they need, no matter what direction life takes them, that they are prepared. Because we know that there's people out there right now that are working from home that are like, I've never had to do a Zoom. I don't know what that is. I've never had to talk in front of people. Media alone teaches students to talk in front of an audience and build that self-confidence that maybe they never had because they always sit in the back of the room and never raise their hand. Well, there is no raising hands, now you have to, get out there and put yourself out there, and it's okay. It's a scary place, but that's how they overcome some of those hurdles that maybe they wouldn't have otherwise. So I think it opens up a whole nother world to some of those students that maybe are falling into our cracks a little bit. And those are the students that, for me, those are the ones to me where the light bulbs go off, those ones that are in those cracks sometimes.
Absolutely. And I'm even thinking about my own context, some of the students that are struggling a little bit in the traditional classroom, and hopefully it's not too traditional, but I'm thinking about starting more media creation as a way to connect with those kids, right? And build some relationships. Our friend Don is here this morning. Welcome, Don. He says, if administration invests in a TV studio, the whole school, every subject can use the space and allow every student a chance to learn those skills outside of a media class.
Yep.
And Don, you're absolutely right. It doesn't have to be just media time, right? I mean, the English teacher can take her kids down to that space, and you can use it in really any subject. My brother Andrew, welcome Andrew, out from the far left coast, says, so true. The virus has forced us to learn, forced us out of our comfort zones. Teach, EAK, teach. I'm not sure how I'm maybe not saying that right. Over on Twitter says, all of you inspire me to dive into media creation. I introduced Canva to my 5th graders and love it. Yes. and love all of those templates. I find Canva a little bit of a tease when we're stuck in that freemium model. So as Bruce mentioned earlier, Teach makes sure to get a hold of the free for schools version. The English 9 says, I've seen schools go all in on equipment, but then not consider the publishing and sharing aspect at all. Right. Wow, huge point. Yeah, Bruce, jump in there.
Yeah, that's why, I mean, when I really think about this question, I would start with what you have, and this is one of the premises of our book, and I would just not be like, we want to do the TV thing. Let's go buy thousands of dollars of equipment. Like, start small with your product, whatever your curriculum that's driving it, and then start building it out. And now might be the best time ever to also do this. I'm a big fan of the Blackmagic Design products. They have an ATM Mini right now. I think it's like $290. And you plug cameras in that and you have your TV studio. So I would not be thinking thousands or hundreds of thousands. I'd be thinking use exactly what you have. And then over time, through Ed Foundations, through community, through PTO, there's different ways that we could talk about to fund some of these things. I would worry about the funding and the building of it last. And I would put the content first. And then whoever you're showing it to buy that equipment to, Tim, then you actually have something tangible to show them. Instead of just an idea, you can go to them with a podcast, with a radio show, with a commercial, whatever the students are creating. And sometimes that's an easier avenue than just, from scratch buying all this equipment. And then you have to figure it out and, make it easy for the students to also use.
It's pretty tough to go to administrations and school boards with a pitch when you've got absolutely nothing to show. Right. I think you're absolutely right. You want to demonstrate that consistency over time. Can you get commitments from kids? Is this something feasible? Will your school allow publishing? All of those questions, sort of get that going. And by the way, Bruce, just as a principle, I love that in every area of media creation, even outside of the school. I think of podcasting and the advice is the same. Just get started, start to build it from there. So I love this point from the English 9. Thank you, Bruce, for jumping in there. Brian Carpenter says making videos gets us back to that oral tradition of storytelling, but richer is we can put content of pictures and sounds that oral storytelling leaves out. 100%. And by the way, tons of curricular standards in English about storytelling. Bruce says, use what you have in your school first. We were just talking about that one. Great point. Teach. I want to try green screening. Well, we've got the green screen gal here, Eileen. And it's Eileen. Thank you. So you're at the right place. And great advice, content first. All right, we've covered a lot of ground. I want, just before we move on, is this the right time? I think I am going to ask you to do some consultation for me if I can. So I don't know if you had a chance to see my video yesterday, but I've got in our lower gymnasium, the underground one, we've got this media multi-purpose studio. It's got one beautiful wall of green that's already been painted green. It's a tile floor, which I don't really like in terms of acoustics. We've got a whiteboard, TV, not a whole lot of gear. Other than that, how would you start? I mean, I'm sure that makes you salivate in some ways from a media creation standpoint. So, Erika, where do you think I should go from there with this media multipurpose room?
Not sure we have enough time for this, for my turn. Yeah, I mean, I think when you find your passion, you just know it, and I'm pretty sure that's mine. But I was having fun looking at that yesterday. Before I forget, this is in the show notes, and I threw it on the YouTube chat, that this 10 ways to start a studio, even if you use green butcher paper, from the art teacher to, so on. And I actually want to talk to all of you about adding radio into this, because you're right. Media is not just green screen. But first of all, Tim, we got to talk about the floor. You need a floor. The back part of your video, you have that black strip on the floor there. You know how, I think that's what I saw. Is that correct? Where it was on the floor behind you. It's hard to explain without seeing it. And that needs to be covered if you ever want to have people's feet in there. So you need green there, but you don't want it to be wrinkled or anything. So if you threw down some green cloth or something, you're going to have those wrinkles in there. And that's why I love Dewey, because if you do pictures, especially with pictures, you can use their masking tool to erase those dark spots that happen. Another thing, I kind of want the advice of the other two on this about the other walls. I'm wondering if he should paint the other walls green as well, especially, for the width of it. However, he doesn't necessarily have the depth. I'm not sure how long the room is for you. Acoustics, I think this floor, this is the one I have in that media creation thing. It's the foam floors. And it's been great for us. And these have edges to it too, so it can be flat. And these have been amazing for a green screen floor. But if you have budget, there's other options in that slideshow. What was the other advice I had to give you? Go ahead and ask me a question. You had
Well, that's a great start, and we can certainly come back to you, Erika. Okay. So I love the foam interlocking tiles, and I imagine I can pick those up at Home Depot. I'd rather not order on Amazon like 100 of those, but
oh no, I got mine at Amazon. It's in the slideshow. It's
okay.
Like $35 total for the whole floor. It was not expensive, and you can get the right color green, and they're wonderful. But there's other options for floors. One thing you should not do is put down cloth, because I have on my YouTube, you'll see me take a big digger, flatten my face. So you learn.
All right. Great advice. I was also curious. I'm going to jump over to Paula here as a radio person. Would you put up acoustic or soundproofing panels on a couple of the walls just to absorb some of the sound? Paula, what do you think?
That's what I was going to say. There's just the long skinny ones. You could actually put a few on the wall. But I also, I had a really small area in the back of my room where my radio was. So I actually bought like the accordion sound baffle type thing. And so I just kind of made a little corner and put a desk back in there. And I put the radio behind that. So because I did not have an actual room for it. So that's how we did it. And it worked out just great. So, but that's what I was going to tell you. Yeah, that would probably be a cheap way to do that, but very efficient. So,
Yeah, I feel like that room just needs to be quieted down if we're going to make if we're going to do some and I love the podcasting. Haven't done the radio yet. Definitely love the podcasting angle if I can get that by my superiors and my parent community. I'd love to do some of that. Bruce, your thoughts on, I'm sure I'm not the only one to have sort of a media multi-purpose room, and not every school has it. I don't want to make that assumption, but if you have that 20 by 20 kind of a room, where do you go from there?
I mean, really what struck in my mind before I would buy anything, I would put a table in there, get a camera, and start videotaping, and start creating content in the room first, and then start seeing, do you need to add other pieces of audio, other lighting that you could possibly put in there. And the one tip that I would give you, and when I first used iMovie, I wish I would have known this with the green screen, is don't have them stand right below the green screen. Like whatever you're videotaping, go 5 feet up, because you want all the green to be the same color green. If kids are right under it, and I made this mistake the first couple of years, you get a shadow off of them, and it's really difficult, to key anything out. So depending on what devices you have, Tim, if you have iPads, I definitely go with Do Ink or Doink, whatever you want to call it. If you don't, then I love WeVideo, that you can videotape anything in front of it, key it out, and you can make, the perfect key. And for me, I would go in and I would have students, if you have like a morning announcements in your school that might be audio, so it goes through the phone system. For me, that might be the place to start, to just put a desk in there, have kids do the morning announcements, put up a nice picture of your school, in the background, and probably do a post-production and WeVideo to start. And then eventually, the one piece I would build up to is that ATEM mini, that you can connect that to a computer and really start doing some slick things, with the green screen. So I don't know if I would buy that much in the beginning. I would just get in there with a camera and a table and start videotaping it. And then, the resource that's right in front of us, which is amazing, is the students. And they would probably be the ones I would ask for ideas of how could we use this room, along with the staff in your school, and let them come up with some ideas to get some energy of what could we use this room for. It could be used in any curriculum area, but let them generate it instead of you going to them and saying, okay, the history teacher, we're going to put up black and white pictures in the background of what you're studying. Let them come up with the ideas instead of you.
So again, back to that idea, Bruce, of proof of concept, right? Like establish that momentum, that consistency, kind of see your needs unfold as you are creating, and then go from there. So I like that idea as well. I don't know if this will resonate with any of our viewers, but in my situation, I was not successful in getting video for my school community at the beginning of the year, partly because our IT department felt like our privacy list was already long enough. And then secondly, our students have access to the Adobe suite. The only problem is they're on Chromebooks. So the Adobe Rush, I really want Adobe Rush to sort of get to that cloud-based solution stage. They haven't gotten there yet, but fortunately we do have carts of iPads available for our students, and of course they can use iMovie as well. Go ahead, Bruce.
Tim, for that one, I would address that one really simply with WeVideo. Tell them you want to pilot it in your school and try it first. That way you can get it for a longer period of time than maybe 30 days, and then use the same model, like get it for longer than 30 days, then go back to those decision makers and say, here's my green screen project from language arts, here's one from history, here's one from this. Like have things you could show them, because we looked when we went to Chromebooks 5 years ago, and WeVideo hands down was the best choice that could do everything we wanted it to do and more, because they keep evolving.
I am such a WeVideo fan. I actually, kind of an embarrassing admission, but I continue to use it for my own video editing, even though I have access to Premiere Pro. How bad is that? But I'm familiar with it. Yeah, Erika, jump in there.
Okay, sorry, I get so excited. I'm like, oh. On the other thing with equipment for people that are with the budget, one thing I recommend always using is a tripod, and you can make them out of cups and toilet paper, boulder rolls, and that's in the thing. And to film, please film in landscape too. But what Bruce was saying, that's a great suggestion for the WeVideo part, because I'm lucky enough to have it, but those that don't, like I said, Adobe Spark is one you can use with your students for free. However, if you are an iPad school, Doink is actually a video production app. It doesn't have the music and things, but I throw it in iMovie or in WeVideo or other places you can add music and a couple other things. But for the most part, it has splits and trim, and it's a video production app. So if you have iPads, you do have a place to make videos. That was what I wanted to share.
Yeah, and I want to be clear again. My students are one-to-one Chromebook, so that's their primary device. I got really excited when I saw WeVideo come out with their real-time collaborative features. I have yet to see them in action, so if anyone's got access to a great YouTube clip showing what that looks like, that would be amazing. They already had collaborative features at my last school when I was using it with students, so that students could access the same pool of files when they're working on a project together. But they would always get a message that if another teammate is working on a project, they wouldn't be able to edit it at the same time. And now what I understand is they can, sort of Google Doc style. So shout out to WeVideo. I saw Dr. Nathan Langrad is following this, at least on Twitter, and great to see the work they are doing. I'm going to keep going with our questions. We've got 2 left, actually really just 1 left. So if we have any extra time, I'm sure, hey, there's no limit to the ideas coming out of this panel. But question number 5, who are some of the creative voices who inspire your learning in the area of media creation? I am so interested in hearing, like, who are the other creators out there, either within education or maybe even outside of education. One that really inspires me is a YouTuber named Matt DeVella. I was listening to him on a podcast. I don't know if the 3 of you are familiar with him, but incredible stuff on YouTube. Erika, who is it that inspires your creative juices, your creative energies?
Oh gosh, so many. Brad Montag, number 1 for sure, because I've learned so much from just watching his videos, how to create a good video. Some people right here, these 2 with their beautiful book. And I also, Mr. Ergadin, if you don't know him, Levant Ergadin, he's amazing. Fugel Fun, Trisha Fugelstein, she is awesome. And Tony Gugliotti, I work with. And Zach King. If you don't watch Zach King and learn clips, you have to learn how to use clips. It's a free app, and just, all his Zach King all the way. You got to watch him.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't think I knew any of the names you just dropped. So I will go back and watch the tape and link to all of these creators in the show notes. So if you're catching this on the replay, those names and links should be below in the YouTube show notes if that's where you're catching us. But they won't be right now if you're watching live because I haven't gotten there yet. Thank you for that list. I've heard the Zach King name. I have not. I don't have a face or no association. Bruce, who inspires you?
I have three that I'm going to mention. One is it's another New Jersey person. Something's in the water here. Kim Mattina, who does the Sweet Talk, and Kim comes through on her podcast on everything, just like you're in the room with her. Great person, like asking questions. She's Google certified, everything. Does a lot more STEM than I do, but I listen to that every week. The Sweet Talk. She has amazing guests on it. My second one actually goes with the third. The second one is someone called John O'Leary, who is not a technology person. I actually heard his story through the third person I'm going to mention in a moment. John O'Leary's story is when he was 9 years old, he was in his garage, and unfortunately the gasoline for the lawnmower caught on fire, and 90% of his body was burned. And from the St. Louis Cardinals, Jack Buck, the sportscaster, went to go visit him when he read it in the paper when he was a little boy, and just went in and said, "You're going to make it. You're going to make it, kid." And then stayed with him along the way, along all his rehabilitation, and helped him recover. And unfortunately, he lost like his fingers in the fire. Jack Buck said to him, "If you learn how to write, I'll start bringing you baseballs from the St. Louis Cardinals." And then you fast forward it, the story, as you know, Joe Buck, the national announcer, does a lot of things with John O'Leary. John O'Leary is now a national best-selling writer, and he has a podcast every Monday, 5 minutes of like inspiration. And once a week, he'll bring people who have overcome anything. It's not just from the sports world and any type of world, and similar stories to his. And the third person that actually I learned about John O'Leary was from Don Goebel, and I know Don was on here before with a comment. DonGoebel.com. He's a TV production teacher in St. Louis, Missouri, and Don is incredible. He has tons of resources on there. And the one I really appreciate, especially during COVID and remote learning, he did his passion project, which was to go interview all students who had graduated from his school and are now in the business. So he actually did a 35-week podcast and did it through video and Zoom of students who are now engineers, they're reporters, they do everything in the business, along with a lot of different St. Louis people. And remember before I said you never know till you ask. He actually asked Joe Buck, the sports announcer, would he come on his show, Movie Maker? And Joe Buck did and told this story on there. So I would go with Kim Mattina, John O'Leary, and Don Goebel.
Wow. Awesome setup. Thank you, Bruce. I'm just thinking, the idea of schools using a culture community building podcast to sort of profile people in their community. That idea is not new to me, but you've just struck gold, or, I'm sure it's not a new idea, I guess, but it's new to me, that idea of what about a school podcast that just focuses on alumni? I mean, that would be super interesting, I think, for the rest of the community to follow. What are our graduates up to, and how are they using their skills? So thank you for those stories. And I'll have to look into the Joe Buck story. That's really cool as well. Paula, who inspires you? You're more particularly in that audio space.
Yeah.
Who inspires you? Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, I thought for sure Bruce was going to say me, but so
I was going to say you and Erika, but you're here.
Okay. I guess I'm going to approach it a little differently. I guess I don't have one. Like, I feel like every time I'm on a podcast with someone, like today, where I'm meeting new people, I feel like I learn all the time. And I like the opportunity that we all are doing and have now, that we are getting to talk and meet people that we never would have met before. And I feel like I learn something every time, no matter who you are. And so for that, thank you, because I think it's really important. And as far as the audio world, I actually enjoy listening to George Capalbo, which is the CEO of Backbone Radio. And his dad was in the radio business for 50 years in New York City. And George has like what I call that radio voice. And he actually produces a tech minute, which is now it's actually getting out there. It's on fantasy sports and some other things. But that voice and the way he puts all the sound effects in, and I love listening to him. And so, my hope is as we develop our radio talk show and so forth, to really be able to mimic some of those properties. So I'm just going to say kudos honestly to everyone. I know Don. I love listening to Bruce and Randy, and I feel like I learn from everybody. So that's the honest truth.
The danger with shout outs is you start to leave people out, and then
I was just thinking that, like, oh God.
There are so many great creators, but thank you all for naming those. And I'll have some homework later this afternoon to try to link as many of those great creators as I can in the YouTube show notes below. We've got a few viewers with us. If you'd like to throw out any names of people that inspire you, I've seen a whole bunch come up from our guests and from our viewers. So we're starting to wrap up here. But if you'd like to shout out any great creating educators that we should be paying attention to, I'll try to include those in the show notes as well. This has been a wonderful conversation. I know we've only scratched the surface, but I do want to respect your time. So I'm going to ask you how we can connect with you. And this is your opportunity as well to, again, plug your amazing resources. So Paula, I will go back to you. How can we connect? And make sure we hear one more time the name of your radio show. I want to make sure to link that in the show notes as well.
Okay. It is called Scripted Radio, which goes with our book, which I think Bruce is going to show anyway. But this is our book. It's called Scripted, and it's an educator's guide to media in the classroom. So that is all media, radio, television, film as well. So Scripted Radio is actually on the air. It's on our website. Our website is scriptededucators.com. On our website, we have all of our upcoming podcasts that we are guests on as well. Our radio is already on the air. We will begin our own talk shows here shortly. And really, you can reach us through scriptededucators@gmail.com. Try to keep everything consistent. And my Twitter is @pneid. And then our Twitter together is @scriptededucators.com.
All right. Fantastic. And Bruce, over to you. Paul already covered a lot of the scripted content, but is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, sure. Definitely. First, thanks so much for having us. And, we're like tickled pink with the scripted book, scriptededucators.com. We're starting to now get educators, Tim, who are like, they're sending us pictures of the book with it all tagged with, we've done this lesson, this lesson, this lesson, and really have dug into it and created, terrific things with the book. Oh, there's the website. Yep, Scripted Educators. We also, on that site, we have a Wakelet page to keep updated all of our resources. So that's one thing that's there, along with the radio station, that we just launched. You can always find me on Twitter @breicher, @BREICHER. And the other place where you can find us, if you want to keep the conversation going, WeVideo was nice enough to invite us to host their Twitter chat on Monday night at 7 o'clock Eastern. It's called What's Your Story? And we're going to be asking 6 questions about how people use media in the classroom and with remote learning. So you could check us out Monday night, #What's Your Story, all one word. And we're going to be throwing out questions about media. And we hope you could join us Monday night.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you so much. We'll try to connect with you. And Bruce, you are you are a busy guy. I really respect how much you get out there to sort of preach that gospel of media creation, not just promote scripted, although obviously that takes some work as well, but you are inspiring so many people. Paula, you as well. Thank you so much. And speaking of inspiration, Erika, how can we connect with you?
Okay, kind of have a theme here. Greenscreengal.com. I have greenscreengal44 on Instagram, and then my Twitter is greenscreengal. But I also would love for people to follow me on Educators with Tony. And right now, I have no shame. I'm gonna ask you all for a vote. I entered a contest with my students on greenscreenfest.com. It's a green screen festival. I got to have an interview with Johnny Pazlowski. He's a famous actor in Australia. He's on one of my favorite shows, McCloud's Daughters. He was in Mordecai. And we have been chosen. There it is. We've been chosen as a People's Choice Award. So our video is the one called Cultivate Compassion, 3, 2, 1 action, Cultivate Compassion. Through creativity. You'll see our little poster there so you can watch our video. We have a fun little, if you've seen it on my Twitter and everything, the kids climbing out of things to promote it. But also where you vote at the bottom, you do have to vote for 3 films. So please don't vote for mine 3 times. They won't count it. But mine's the very first one. And like I said, we'd love your vote. We're very excited about it and hope to see you. Hope to see you on Green Screen Gal and reach out anytime.
Fantastic. And I brought up the scripted site. Is there anything you'd like to show us on the Green Screen Gal site? Where should we, or just give us a quick tour?
Well, okay, it's still under construction. It's kind of crazy. There is some freebies. So on the homepage, there it is, pops up. You can get some freebies there, some lesson plans and things. And I am launching, you can hold me to this, everybody. I am launching my online course, Become a Green Screen Rockstar, next week on Teachable. And it will take you through, mostly it's doing, but there is a wee video in there as well. It will teach you how to do all the things that I do because people have been asking for it and I'm finally launching it. So if you just sign up there somewhere, I'll be in touch. And then you can also see under Meet Green Screen Gal, you'll see some of the things like this chat today. But yeah, I think that's enough for now. That's plenty.
That's right. Well, thank you so much. On the theme of connecting, if you are interested in my content, go ahead and connect with me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Teachers on Fire. And of course, where it all started over on the podcast side, connect with me on Teachers on Fire on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other podcast player. Thank you so much for joining me. And I just want to hit this last question. Let's see who's popping in. So Justine says, wow, you all are amazing. We'll definitely share with my fellow educators. Thank you so much, Justine. Yeah. And thank you to all of our viewers here who are joining us live. If you're catching us on the replay, again, make sure to check out the links that I've included in the YouTube show notes. But to all of you fantastic media creators, thank you so much for sharing your Saturday with me. And I look forward to learning again with you in the future. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Be safe and well.